Got it in park. I'm gonna start it up. Starts up beautifully. I have the transfer case in 2-wheel drive. High. Watch this. Ready? What the fuck? So transmission works. Rear diff, not so much. Oh, this is funny. All right, this one does not want to come out, so I got one of two options. I can cut the head and pound it out, or I can try heating this piece up, burning all the rubber out of it, and then still trying to take it off. But, oh, either way, not very good options. I think I'm gonna try heating it up, spinning this loose, and then pounding it out this way, because I have less room to pound it out towards the center of the truck and more room to pound it out away. Not sure if these are gonna come off. Gotta push them a little bit. Just got done cutting the last of the hanger bolts. So axle is free floating as of now. Ended up just cutting the emergency brake. It was so rusted out and it had a little bit of damage. So not sure if I want to get a new one of those or find one off one of my parts vehicles, but we're ready to drop this 9-inch. Well, that's not supposed to happen. There are 4 inner bolts there, and this axle slid right out, which sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. I am nervous that this bearing is not set very well. All right, here's the yoke and the third member. Very sloppy. Pushed in, it will move the axles. There's a lot of backlash, so I'm not too optimistic that this is going to be salvageable, but either way, it needs to be torn apart because it either needs to be put back on this vehicle or it needs to be put onto the scrap vehicle, and the scrap vehicle needs it just to be towed around the yard. So get this pulled apart. So here's the diagnosis. The gear here doesn't look too chewed up. I mean, obviously it is chewed up, but the real problem is the worm gear of the third member. It is extremely sharp. It's kind of like shark toothed in a way, essentially unusable. Let's look at some of this. I could take a magnet and double check that, but you can, there's a lot of metal in there. I can't tell if that bearing is good or not. I can pull this whole face plate, take a better look at it. I would love if I only had to change the third member, but based on how much metal's in there, I'm gonna guess that that might not be an option. After looking up leaf springs online, seeing pricing, I realized that it's gonna blow my entire budget. So time to crawl back in the scrap bin and get those leaf springs out and try to fix them. Got the U-bolts for the U-joints on the drive shaft, and just gonna run a thread tracer on them. I had a tap on them just a little bit to get them out. Usually they get a little stuck, so I'm gonna clean them up and they should go right back in. All right, wire brushing a lot of the parts. It's dirty in here, it's dusty. I got my respirator on. So the shackles, I ended up torching this one on the truck and this one off the truck. I wasn't wearing my shade 5s, so I wasn't able to see the torch so clearly. Gouged it a little bit, so I'm going to fill this up with weld, grind it back flush, and should be good to go. All right, shackles welded up. Another piece is this angle block. You can see excessive wear there. That's from, I believe it sits like this probably, or maybe the leaf springs sit on it, but this movement, it must not have been very greased, so it's eating into the collar. I'm just going to weld this up and we'll be able to grind that right down. A little bit of preheat. See all that moisture getting cooked out. Welded up pretty easy, so I'm going to flap it down and call her good. All right, here's the parts after they're cleaned up. You can see there's still some little indents, but not too worried about that. It's not going to crack out. It's plenty good. And then here is the angle shim piece. This is the old one. You can see it's not worn out. This one's been welded back. It's cleaned up now, so it'll be good to put back together. Got the leaf springs all torn apart. Gonna wire wheel them now. Might run a flap wheel on them, but got them all ready to go. Got everything pressed out, so time to clean them up. Got the donor axle ripped out. Got the truck sitting on some 4x6s and some tires, so not sure how I'm gonna move this around anymore, but axle's out, ready to slide underneath the Bronco. Working on the shackles. The shackles have a weld right here, so they're a little trickier to get the inner sleeve out. Just gonna run a sawzall right along this edge. That way, if I cut through it a little bit, it's gonna go inside this hole where it's already welded. So I'll cut this through, tap that out, and then we will get the new bushings in. All right, it's cut all the way through at the two ends, not cut all the way through in the middle. So I'm gonna take a chisel, break it out, roll it up, and punch it out. So you can see my chisel drove all the way through there. I didn't nick the sides at all, just peels it right out. So once I tap my chisel back through, this thing can kind of peel out. You'll have to peel it all the way along the edges, but it'll come out, other one will go right in. All right, you can see I peeled the two lips. Then I just put the chisel right in there and it'll pound right out of there. No press needed. All right, new bushings you can just tap in with a hammer. Once it gets to a certain point, you can just put it in your vise, tighten the vise down, they'll go right in. All right, shackles are pressed in. Now onto the leaf springs. All right, first coat of paint is on everything. It's gonna take a while longer to dry because it is only 30 degrees out. Probably gonna put one more coat on. Only took one coat of paint for this, so not too worried about the quality because I'm gonna eventually be using some POR 15 on the entire chassis once we get everything in line. So this is just to prevent some surface rust, just to get us along. Second coat of paint is on everything. It's not looking bad. So this stuff's all going to be pretty hidden, and it's wet right now, but it does dry nice and semi-gloss to a satin. So happy with how it's turning out. All right, new axles in. I still have to torque the hanger bolts. Looking good. All right, I know I didn't show much of it going back together, but the leaf springs look pretty good. Got everything all torqued down. I think the truck looks way better with these white wheels, but got a whole bunch of different projects going at once, but it's good to know that the rear axle's in. Looks good.